Welcome, huge movie fanatic Nate, stopping on by. Believe it or not, this time I'm coming at you for yet again another movie review of a movie that's relatively new. How's about that? That's generally not something that I do here on this channel, but because last year, like around Thanksgiving-ish time and Black Friday and all this and that, I signed up for some streaming services that really, prices that can't be beat. So I signed up for Paramount Plus for a year for $2 a month, and some other streaming sites as well. Already done with the HBO Max trial. That $2 a month trial only lasted 3 months, but that was definitely worth $6. But I was able to see this movie obviously on Paramount Plus. I don't know if this movie came out in theaters last year or not. I can't imagine it did, but maybe it did, maybe it didn't. Regardless, it's on Paramount Plus now, and also DVD, I think, and Blu-ray, coming at you to review the film or the movie. It's not a film, it's a digital or a movie by the name of Orphan, First Kill. So basically, I did review the first film on this channel quite a long time ago at this point. I just looked, and it's got, I think it doesn't even have 20 views, and the review's a better part of 10 years old, and it's just like kind of a bummer, but that's what my channel was like back then. Now I get upwards of 20, 30 something views, so things are definitely improving. So I also take this opportunity to thank everyone for supporting and watching the channel over all these years and months and weeks. I've noticed like an uptick on average view counts, which is appreciated. It used to be somewhere maybe in the teens, and now it's, as I said, somewhere as high as in the 20s or 30s, so thank you very much for that. I got the original movie back on DVD for $3, and was actually, if you watch my review of it, I would imagine I say something along the lines of didn't really expect much, but I'd actually turned it out to be a pretty intriguing movie with one of them surprise endings, kind of like Sleepaway Camp, that you don't expect. So I ended up, relatively more or less liking Orphan, and being residing in Minnesota, it's one of those movies that you tend to watch this time of year during the winter and stuff, and turned out to be the same case with Orphan First Kill, maybe to not as much of an extent. I don't think it's as wintry, or there's as much outdoor goings on in this movie as the first film, but definitely like the beginning of this film, there's some wintry stuff, and wherever the hell this takes place at the beginning, Russia or wherever the hell it's taking place. What the hell do I know? Don't ask me. Before I even start, I mean, obviously, it's so weird that they'd even do like a sequel to the first film, or actually can't really even call it a sequel, because without spoiling the first film, we'll just say that things kind of, the way the first film ended, doing a sequel would be more or less difficult or impossible unless you want to turn the character into a undead Jason character. I guess that maybe spoils the ending of the first film a little bit, but whatever. That movie's old enough where if you haven't seen it by now, hell with it. But yeah, basically like with the remake of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, that same thing. That movie ended in a way that's difficult to do a sequel. So for some reason, over 10 years after the release of the first film, someone decided, well, let's do another Orphan film, but since we can't do a sequel, we'll do a prequel. We'll call it Orphan First Kill. And obviously, if you're familiar with the first film, you know that we get a little bit of the characters, the orphan girl's backstory and stuff that happened before that film. So obviously, it's a no-brainer to do a prequel and see some of that stuff that was alluded to in the first film, and that's indeed what happens. Just like so many of the reviews I've been doing as of late, I'm not going to spoil this. I'm not going to do a beat by beat, just a basic overview. The beginning of the movie was kind of cool with her and whatever the hell she was in. I won't spoil that, but her breakout was a little bit cool and a little bit like roll your eyes at the same time, like whatever. And I was saying, like, how weird is it that they're doing a prequel to Orphan over 10 years after the release of Orphan? That's just so strange to me. And I would imagine that the girl that plays this character in both films possibly does have a little bit of, like the syndrome or whatever that the character she plays has as well. I'm not very familiar with the you know the history or the story of the actual actress who plays the main character in both of these films, but obviously one thing I thought it was really goofy about doing a prequel to Orphan over 10 years later is obviously she's going to look, you know, over 10 years older, and how's that going to work? And I guess they kind of do pull it off, and whatever and whatever, and yeah, I guess they kind of do. It's just so strange to me though that Orphan was like one of these movies that I think probably was maybe a little more of a hit than maybe they expected it back then, and it's just like, well, okay, we're going to wait over 10 years to do another one, in this case a prequel. It's just so strange to me. But you know, I guess we can say she breaks out of this, you know, I mean, the funny thing is if you've seen the first film, you kind of know what this movie is about, so I don't really even have to explain it, but she breaks out and you know, kind of cons her way into a family's life, and of course affluent rich family who lives in this castle. And it's so funny about this guy, and for the record, I don't like I don't really like the mother or father, the actress and the actor who play the mom and dad in this movie. It's like they're both kind of annoying to me, and the guy's especially annoying, like his voice. Sorry, guy, just I don't really like the guy, and the guy's so. It's almost like a reverse role, which of course is a lot of what's going on these days. The woman's all, you know, just take the initiative and whatever, and the guy's more passive and stuff, and it's just like, but I'm not a big fan of the mom dad duo in this movie. And you know, what I was gonna say is they live in this mansion or whatever, and the guy talks about going to parties with the wife, you know, the wife's parties, and meeting all these uptight millionaires, and it's kind of like, chances are you probably have to be something like a millionaire or multimillionaire to live in the castle you're living in. It's like talking about meeting, you know, having dealings with uptight millionaires when you're living in a house that's probably, I don't know what, $5 million minimum. It's just like, you know, and Mr. Range Rover family, and it's just like, that was a detail I thought was kind of dumb. But I'll spare you the details, many of which I can't even frickin' remember anyway. But the dad, one thing I will say, I guess, a little bit in the way of spoilerage that was kind of cool about this movie. It's not that inventive. I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer. But if you've seen the original film, you know at the end that she does this mural on the wall or whatever that looks like one thing, but then when you switch on black light or whatever the hell kind of light it is, you see all this other stuff. So it looks like a nice little drawing on the wall or something, and you switch on this other light, and there's all this, you know, fire and brimstone and demons and all this kind of stuff. So we do find one of the cooler aspects of this movie is we see that where she learns that from is from this guy, you know, Mr. Passive whatever, you know, mother like father figure or whatever. But so he's a painter, he's an artist, so he teaches her that technique of using a different light, whether it's black light or whatever, and having, I mean, when you're doing a painting, just having not only one painting but two paintings, you know, kind of two layers by switching on and off the black light or whatever the hell it is. So that we find out that that's where she learns it in this movie. It's a no-brainer. We're going to add something like that in this movie because it's something that she practiced in the other, you know, the other film. So let's have her learn how to do it in this one. But I guess to try to start the process of wrapping the review up, I was more or less unimpressed. Surprised with the first film. I didn't expect to like the first film as much as I did. Feel free to check out my review of that I did better part of 10 years ago. Maybe get the review up to 20 or 21 views. It's just a suggestion. You don't have to. But this movie, I mean, going in, let's face it, I didn't expect a whole hell of a lot with Orphan First Kill, and that's pretty much what I got. One thing I will say without spoiling it is that very much with like the first film, this movie does have like a twist. I'll just simply say an unexpected twist thing, which, you know, I was kind of bored of the movie until that happened, and when that happened, I'm like, okay, well, that's kind of interesting, and hats off to the writers, whatever, for giving us another unexpected twist in this movie. One thing I will say that's kind of, I don't know if this spoils it, this doesn't really spoil it that much, that's not so cool about the surprise in this movie, is it kind of takes away from the main character You know, it's like some of the other characters turn out to be almost more evil than the main character. So, I mean, it kind of takes away, obviously, from, you know, Esther or whatever the hell her name is in that regard. I mean, imagine having a Friday the 13th film where one of Jason's victims turns out to be more badass than Jason and is kind of out-killing Jason, or, you know, it's just, that's kind of what happens to, maybe I'm spoiling it a little more than I intended, but it's just a movie, what the fuck, it doesn't really matter. But that was, you know, the surprise in this movie was kind of like, oh, you know, very surprising and kind of fun. And like I say, it was something that was like, okay, but this is kind of cool or surprising, but God, it really kind of takes away from Esther's goings on or whatever. And then it becomes like you're really kind of rooting for Esther at this point, really. And so that dynamic, or the you know, the surprise element of this movie, I guess, is the thing that makes it the most interesting or whatever. But my star rating for Orphan First Kill, I don't think it deserves much more than a star out of 4 stars. 1 single star out of 4 stars for Orphan First Kill. I can't remember how many stars I gave the first film. I didn't watch my review of it, and that was over better part of, you know, almost 10 years ago when I did that, so who the hell knows what I gave the first film. I would imagine maybe 2 stars or something, probably, maybe somewhere around there, 2.5, who the hell knows. You know, I didn't want to watch my own review because I didn't feel like it, but I guess that pretty much does it for my review of Orphan First Kill. Obviously didn't expect much, or didn't expect to get much out of it, and I got exactly what I expected. Luckily I didn't have to pay any more additional money to see it. One of the benefits of, you know, belonging to, even though it might be temporary, to some streaming services for introductory trial offers of $2 a month, but if you can see it for free, I guess go for it. If you can't, I wouldn't necessarily waste my time with Orphan First Kill unless it's really inexpensive or free to see. I guess that pretty much does it for my review. Thank you very much for watching, and as always, catch you on the next one.